what is happening to the kids? When can they go back to school? Now, the Karnataka COVID task force has made some interesting suggestions, including having an insurance cover of 2 lakh rupees for each child, a medical insurance cover, other sort of parameters which can be ensuring that kids are safe in school. They should come in groups. They should not be, community activities, maybe non-contact sports and activities, etc. But are parents going to be feeling secure enough to send their kids to school? Now, to speak on this, I'm joined by Surabhi Goel, who's the CEO of Aditya Birla Education Trust Schools. Dr. Jyoti Gupta, ki our Mangalam World School, is joining us on the show, and Mohamed, Shakeel, who's a child's right activist. Welcome to all of you, and thank you for speaking with us. Surabhi, great to have you back on the show. And just, how much closer do you think we are to having kids back in school?
I don't think we are very close, unfortunately, because, whoever parent you would ask, they would want their children to be safe. We've already been at home for almost a year, and the safety still remains a concern. So till the children are not vaccinated, I don't see children going back to school.
Dr. Jyoti Gupta, do you think that's the same case? Because if we're going to wait for children to be vaccinated, the trials are still on. We're looking at maybe another year or so till it's safe enough for children who are small enough to be vaccinated. Meanwhile, in the rest of the world, kids are going back to school with enough adults being vaccinated. Do you think that that theory will work here?
So across the world, they've opened the schools, they've closed them back, they've opened again. For example, USA, UK, they are reopening the schools again. But the sheer numbers that we have in our schools are very, very different from the numbers that are there in these countries. For us, reopening the schools mean 40 children in a class. Even if we are doing the staggered reopening for the children, it means at least 20 to 25 children in a class. Then we are talking about 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 6,000 children in a school, in a campus of about 3 acres, 4 acres. So the sheer numbers are so many that it is right now very scary. Looking at the second wave that we had and the kind of medical facilities that we people have, where the adults were not getting enough medical attention. So if the children were to be exposed, and as we are hearing that the third wave is going to be affecting the children most, and it's not going to be very good for them. We've seen the children being the carriers, and the second wave also, the schools did reopen. The practicals for the senior children did happen. But what happened at the end of the day? There were so many teachers who got affected. The teachers were not vaccinated. The families, all of them were not vaccinated. So the children became the carriers, and it became very difficult for the older people at home to combat the illness. So we should not hurry up. We should wait, and we should see at least their parents should be vaccinated. We should wait, like if they are saying that the third wave is round the corner, and sometime in August and September, in about 6 weeks to 8 weeks, we are going to be expecting the third wave. I don't think this is the time to reopen the schools and to take the chances once again. See, it's very difficult for the children to understand the COVID protocols. It's very difficult for them to stay masked up in the school for 6 hours to 8 hours. So if you're going to reopen, let us say for 4 hours, 5 hours, there's traveling time. How do you expect the children to be staying on with the masks for these many hours? They are going to break the protocols, however careful you are, and then they question if we can go to school.
I mean, let's be honest, adults are not following the protocol beyond a point. Yeah, adults are not following the protocol beyond a point. So to expect kids to would be difficult. But my question is then how much longer? I'm not saying that we should go back to school tomorrow, day after. We'll have to wait, of course, for another 6 to 8 weeks to see what happens with the third wave. But Mohamed, Shakeel, considering that we are vaccinating at a much better pace, that more and more families will be vaccinated, do we need to wait for the kids to be vaccinated as well? I mean, the world over, in several countries, kids are going back to school when enough adults are being vaccinated and infection rates are dropping. That's the parameter. No one's waiting for children to get vaccinated, because under the age of 12, that option right now does not exist. So how long should we wait, and what is the impact on kids who have not been to school for close to 2 years?
Yeah, the hygiene levels of different countries is different from the hygiene level in our country. And we cannot speak about the same levels in our country, unfortunately. If you look at the ordinary viral cough, cold, and flu that children have in a year, at least 2 to 4 times in a year, on an average between 2-3 times, they do suffer bouts of cold, cold, cough, flu, fever. Last year, that children have not gone to schools. My own son, who is now gone to 4th standard, last year would have been in 3rd standard, has not had a single bout of such cold, cough, flu. Such ordinary viruses which, we could not, safeguard the children from. Can we safeguard them from such kind of, during a pandemic like this? What kind of infrastructure and facilities do we have in schools to safeguard the health of these children by exposing them to, these hazards? We're not even looking at schools of 3-4 acres. There are budget schools which are made on 60-40 plots, which do not comply with fire regulations or fire safety or other safety parameters. And we are talking about such schools. What is the safety of the children in such schools? Forget the ventilation in those schools. When they do not have a fire safety measure in place, what is the ventilation do they have in place? And it is very clear to everybody that, once the, different brackets are vaccinated, the above 45 category is vaccinated and below 45, 18 to 45 is vaccinated. Now the virus will be looking for a new host. And the children are the most vulnerable category below 18. And when we are
That's true. No, I understand that. But, the science out there is, I'm not arguing for kids to go back to school earlier. Yeah. I'm trying to understand what are educators thinking right now. What is the thought process? Surabhi, let me come to you here. What is the thought process? Is there a timeline in place? Are we going to do another year of online schooling? In that case, are we ensuring that the kids are not missing out beyond the point? I mean, we have a situation here where parents are literally, hiring tuition teachers to come in person and teach kids. You would be aware of this, so that they make up for what they lose in online school. And this is happening across quite a few cities.
You're absolutely right. This is especially true for children with learning difficulty and special needs, because, those children are finding it extremely difficult to engage online. So such parents have definitely, hired for teachers to come in and help their students. So I get that. But see, India has a huge digital divide, right? So the kind of schools that want to be, they want to restart are mostly government schools or aided schools. This is because no learning has been happening for them. It's literally like a gap year. So, these children haven't gone to school at all, and therefore the parents are not paying fees, and therefore the teachers are not getting their salaries. So that's a whole lot of different challenges. It's both, the fact that the students are missing out on the education, and also because schools are not being able to sustain themselves. On the other hand, we do have schools which have been able to quickly upskill their teachers, have been able to embrace the new normal. And therefore, of course, it can never substitute a real school, right? But for whatever it's worth, they are being able to run school online. There is progression, there are assessments, and all of that's happening. Now, if we were to go to any of these sort of schools, the private schools in the country, I don't see any parents sending in their children to school. And the moment even say there are 20 kids in class and 10 do not want to come to school because it would obviously have to be optional, the school will then need to run a hybrid model where they're also, teaching students who are at home, and then there are students who are coming to school. And that requires a huge technology investment. And if the children were to come to school, how would we do this? So, you would have to start buses. So are my, conductors and drivers vaccinated? Are their family members vaccinated? Once they come into school, is my housekeeping staff and my administrative staff vaccinated? What if a teacher refuses to come to school because she's pregnant? She may have just delivered a baby. She may have old and ailing parents. So it's so complicated to be able to convince parents to students, teachers, the entire staff to be able to, come together, that I find it extremely difficult to imagine that we'll be able to do this till, we have a lot, like a majority of people vaccinated.
So what is the kind of timeline you're looking at? If the government has hit 80 lakh vaccinations today and hopes to vaccinate all adults by December 2021, are you looking at the summer of 2022, possibly for a return to school? And may I just add, then is this new continuation of an online school being reflected in the kind of fees that schools are charging?
Break it up into two parts. So when can we start school? I think we need to bring in more people from across the world who can do vaccination. I don't know how this works, but perhaps if Pfizer can come in and start vaccinating children because they already have data between 12 to 18 years. So, the government quickly needs to tie up with a lot of people to bring in vaccination. And that's one way to look at this. We are very hopeful that, the moment we feel that it's safe, we want to start, right? Like, even the children want to really, really come back to school as quickly as possible. But you're right, I don't see that happening at least till the end of this year. So maybe December, January. And then we can really reassess how the situation and whether the third wave actually comes in and what kind of a toll that takes in. Coming back to the fee point, I think we've kind of discussed this earlier as well. Schools are, most of the expenses are salary. And while there may be a little bit of saving because of, field trips or events that they're not doing, the savings are not substantial.
Mohamed, Shakeel, you spoke very rightly about the concerns of sending kids to school and parents who do not want to take the risk, the kind of crowded schools and great numbers we also have in India. What about the flip side? We talked about the digital divide. There are so many children who have missed out on whole years of education and who will pay the price possibly of not having the opportunity to get that education, will not have the gadgets to have the same kind of education. What happens to them? What is the plan to get them up to speed?
Exactly. See, our country, everything is looked at as an opportunity. Even during a pandemic, for an injection of remdesivir or for oxygen cylinders and everything like that has been looked at as an opportunity, and people have tried to make most of the opportunity. And so here we are looking at schooling also as an opportunity for people who want to just make most of this opportunity. Now, the government talks about children from government schools, and see, 80% of schools in India are government schools going by the data that we have on record. It has slightly tilted to 78 and 22%, 78% government and 22% private schools. So it's a huge, strata of the society that is going to government schools, and they do not have these, gadgets and instruments and stuff like that. And government says that, they're indulging into child labor, child marriage, begging, and they're not having midday meals. These are the major concerns, but those concerns are not applicable to private schools or students coming from affluent homes or middle class homes or good homes in urban cities. And that is a small percentage. Now, let me see, what is the kind of money that government requires to spend on the food for these children for their midday meals? A small fraction of that also, if they had considered to give them a gadget of 3,000 to 4,000 rupees, they would have been able to do it. They are talking about spending 2 lakh rupees on insurance per child. Forget 2 lakh rupees. Can you give them a gadget for 4,000 rupees first? They can also begin their online studies. Without giving them online studies, they want to conduct the SSLC board exams in Karnataka. When CBSE and ICSE boards have cancelled the 10 standard board exams, why is Karnataka hung on doing the board exams for standard 10? Why? For what joy? I will tell you the answer also to that. When students who have studied online for a whole year, albeit a reduced syllabus or whatever, they are prepared for their exams, but those exams have been cancelled. Many states have cancelled their board exams. Why is Karnataka hung on holding SSLC exams even for a day, even for 2 days, even for 40 marks? They want to hold at least for 2 days for core subjects 1 day and languages 1 day. So why? Because there is a certain amount of fund that is marked towards all these things. They want to provide masks, N95 masks, and they want to provide it to students, to officers, and to teachers, and they're going to fund it from the SSLC board fund. there is a fund which they want to utilize. So in the name of conducting exams, they're going to grab that fund, how much they're going to spend, how much they're going to do, what they're going to do. Opportunity. This is what I'm saying. They're looking for an opportunity. Just for June, July, they have declared that 1.6 crores needs to be spent on milk powder for the Kishore Bhagya, for the Shira Bhagya scheme. Okay. Apart from that, they need to deliver grains, oil, supplementary, and other things. Okay. Now, this funds needs to be spent for the food of the children. How much they're going to misappropriate that, I do not know. Okay, that could have been even given by way of a direct benefit transfer to the school-going children's families, to their parents of school-going children. That is not being done. Okay, they want to put the food in the hands so that it goes into the stomach. Money can go anywhere else. Agreed. But what is the, when they did open schools in January, they did stop, they stopped all these midday meals and everything was stopped. They did not provide that ultimately. And these children have only gone to these, schemes, the classes under the tree for a couple of months, and then 1 month or 2 months they went to classroom learning, and they have not been able to study. What are they going to test them for exams? Instead, if they would have been given some ordinary devices for connecting online and studying, that I think would be money better spent. From where are they going to give 2 lakh rupees insurance to those children? Let them give 4,000 rupees device.
That is really the question, that what are we doing to ensure that all kids have the same kind of opportunity? And Ms. Gupta, where do we come with that? Can we really have another 6-7 months of children being left behind in that sense, those who don't have digital access, even those who do, those who go to fancy private schools and have these online classes? The fact is that it's very far from the kind of education they would have got otherwise. The rest of the world is trying to figure out a way, including the hybrid models that we spoke about earlier, and they're doing it at the same cost. Are we even attempting a hybrid model?
So going forward, that's going to be the order for the day. The hybrid model between the online classes and offline classes. Like I said earlier, the sheer numbers are not going to allow us to reopen the schools in the regular mode with 40 children in a classroom. We will have to have a hybrid model even once the schools reopen. Now, talking about the digital divide and talking about the online classes, I would say that once the first wave came in and the schools were suddenly shut, there weren't many schools who had finished with their assessments as well. So the schools, without being told by the government to start the online classes, the private schools, the private teachers, took just about, I think, 1 week to plan and to come online. They started working on platforms like Zoom, Google Meets, Microsoft. So all of these companies also came in and they gave their platforms free of cost to the schools. So within no time, the teachers had started
Absolutely.
teaching the
I'm going
children
to have
online.
to end it here.
So
yes. Yes. I'm afraid I'm going to have to end it there. We have a paucity of time and there's another big story we also have to cover. But I want to thank all of you for joining us on this discussion, which I think is very important. We need to keep tabs on this. We cannot have this home school going on unending. In an unending fashion. We need to have an end date to it as well. So we'll keep a very close track on the story. So thank you to all of you for joining us on this deep dive.